Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Nimike Simon, convener of this program and the faculty member of Postgraduate Department of English, St. Paul's College. Let us welcome Reverend Father Xavier Sebastian Padiyaram Parampil, HOD and Vice Principal, for the inaugural speech.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Once again, most cordial and warm welcome to each and every one of you. I'm so delighted to see that our postgraduate department of English, St. Paul's College, Kalamasheri, is hosting a webinar series from today onwards. I think that's indeed a great service of wisdom, I should say. Because most of us, and I'm sure that during this pandemic time, this COVID-19 period, we have almost all of us have attended so many webinar series. And it reminds us that there is no lockdown for our learning. And through these webinars, I think we can effectively reach out to the potential audience. That's the significant aspect of such webinar series. And I would like to appreciate Dr. Nimi, Ms. Ruby, faculty members, and especially the third semester PG students of our department for initiating such a webinar series. And I wish and pray that all our participants may have a harvest of wisdom from our speakers who are great scholars indeed, because Dr. Lakshmi is here. Tomorrow, Dr. Rajesh will come, and day after tomorrow, Dr. Edward Ederth is addressing our community. And I wish all the best blessings from the Lord, from God, and I thank you very much. Okay.
St. Paul's College, situated at the heart of Kalamasheri, is one of the pioneering and esteemed institutions in India. We are organizing a 3-day webinar lecture series titled From Elizabethan Age to State, an eclectic overview of literature. I would like to welcome Dr. Lakshmi S., Assistant Professor in Maharajas College, Ernakulam, to enunciate first lecture in the series. The objective of this lecture is to acquaint the students with the much neglected origins of the rich dramatic heritage of our country. So let's welcome Dr. Lakshmi S. to the webinar series.
Thank you, Nimi. So I guess we should begin. So let me begin by thanking Nimi for that very effusive welcome. and father for organizing or taking the initiative to organize a webinar of this kind.
Yes, ma'am.
So I understand, like Nimi is a very close friend of mine, and so when she put forward this idea, I balked at the idea. I was very reluctant actually, because the main reason is that I am not a theory person, and I don't believe that I can talk convincingly about a theory. But then, because of the closeness that we share, Nimi insisted, and so then I said, if it is for the PG students mainly, I said, let me look at the syllabus and see what I can do. And I went through the syllabus and I found that in the third semester, the students will be doing a paper on Indian English writing. And so I thought I'll talk about Indian English drama, and mainly about, like, when we are all, I talk to you on the assumption that you're all students of English literature. And so what happens is that we tend to focus only on English literature, in the sense literature written in Britain or maybe in America. Indian literature and Indian writing in English, we just consider it as just one paper in among the many papers that we have to study. So when most of us English literature students, we don't even read books of other languages. We don't bother about the regional literature going on in this very rich nation of ours. And so unless we have a very keen interest in other literatures, we do not bother to read or learn about them. And so even when somebody says, okay, let us talk about drama, what would first come to your mind? You would start thinking about Shakespeare and the Greek drama and the Roman drama. You will think of Sophocles and Euripides. Hardly any of us would think of Kalidasa. So that is exactly why I thought I will talk about Indian English drama today. And so I will be beginning right from the beginning of Indian drama, because I cannot come to Indian English drama without telling you about Indian drama. So let me kind of put up a disclaimer right at the beginning that I am not going to say anything that you don't know about. These are all things that you already know. The only thing that I have tried to do is that I have tried to put them together, put all the information together in a systematic way, so that you will get a clear idea about the origins of Indian drama, and then later on, and the particulars or the characteristic features of Indian drama, and then about how slowly the Indian English drama evolved, and so forth up to the present. Okay, that is what I intend to do in this particular session. So since we do not have much time, let me just launch into the topic. Shall I, Nimi? Is there anything else to be done, or can I just go on?
Yes, ma'am. You can carry on.
Okay. So I have made clear why I chose the topic, and now let's go on. So if we had more time, maybe I would have asked questions and I would have allowed the participants to answer, but now it's going to be a one-woman show. So when we talk about the origins of Greek drama, because we are trained to think about drama as Western drama, and so when we always begin with the Greek drama. So just to brush up, Greek drama began somewhere in the 6th century BC. It's supposed to be the oldest form of world drama. And then we are familiar with the names like Aeschylus and Sophocles and Euripides. And then we have the Roman drama, that too somewhere around the 3rd century BC. And Indian drama too started around that time, somewhere between the before the 2nd BC, we should say. And about the origins, and why do we say that it started somewhere in the 2nd BC? It's because Natya Shastra was written. Natya Shastra, which is the oldest and the most authentic treatise on dramaturgy and all performing arts, was written. The date is tentative. Nobody knows for sure, but somewhere around 4th and 2nd century BC. And the very fact that this book was written shows that a very thriving and a rich dramaturgy existed in India before that, because Bharata Muni was not cooking things out of his imagination. He must have had something based on which he would have formulated the rules of drama. So that itself is a fact to show that drama existed by 2nd century BC. So we can be proud that we too have a drama which can stand on par with Roman and Greek drama. And we have a lot of, just like you talk about all these Greek persons, if I ask you the names of Sanskrit writers or Indian dramatists, I hope you will be able to give me a few names, like for example Ashvaghosha, we have Bhasa, and of course Kalidasa. And Kalidasa is called the Shakespeare of India. Look at the turn of events, or look at the fate that Kalidasa had to. He's called the Shakespeare of India. Shakespeare lived so many years after Kalidasa, and it makes me think, if the world had been, if things had happened differently, and if we were the colonizers instead of the British, it would be other way around. Shakespeare would be called the Kalidasa of Britain. It's just so happened that we were never brought to the limelight because we were not the masters, and history, we know, is always written by the master. And so coming back to this, so Indian theatre has a history of unbroken history of over 2000 years. And while poetics was written and formulated in Greece by Aristotle, somewhere around that time, or maybe a few years later, here we had our Bharata Muni formulating his poetics. And while we had all those great names writing dramas there, we had our own Bhasa and Kalidasa and Shudraka, Vishagadatta, Bhavabhuti, and so many others producing such wonderful drama in this country of ours. And the Indian works, the Indian plays were in no way lesser than the so-called the Greek and Roman masterpieces. And regarding the origin of Indian drama, there are many versions, and some critics have said that Indian drama was inspired by Greek drama, and they cite one word. Maybe there are other evidences too, but they say the word Yavanika. Yavanika, they say, it's a sign of this Greek influence, because Yavana means a Greek. We have the song Yavana Sundari. A Yavana Sundari, we mean a beauty, a Greek beauty. Okay, so they say that, so the curtain is called Yavanika. So the very fact that the word Yavanika, it comes from the Greek influence. But then later on, other scholars and critics have repudiated this particular theory, and they say that Indian drama evolved on its own. It doesn't have anything to do with Greek drama, and Yavanika has its own etymological origin in Sanskrit itself. It has nothing to do with the word Yavana. Okay, and so that claim that Indian drama took off from Greek drama has been proven wrong, or at least many people prefer not to believe that claim. And in Natya Shastra, it is a book with 36 chapters, and in that particular book, Bharata Muni has said that drama was of divine origin. And the story goes that we know that in the Indian mythology, in the pantheon, we have all kind of fantastical creatures, like you have the Devas and the Asuras, the Danavas, the Yakshas, Gandharvas, Nagas, and all kind of human and superhuman creatures. And so it is said that there was a golden age when everything was perfect and there was only goodness, and then it seems there came a silver age when the standards of everything started going down. There was a degradation in society, in men's thoughts, all kind of vice started replacing virtue. And at that time, it is said that the gods under the leadership of their king Indra, they went to Brahma and asked him to give them some means of an entertainment which would give them happiness of the senses, at the same time something that would refine them, something that would teach people to be better, help them to imbibe good things, good qualities. And it is said that it is as a result of this request that Brahma learned the essentials of drama from Shiva. And according to this belief, Shiva is the originator of all art. If you just recall the statue of Nadaraja, he is the master of all performing arts in according to what Bharata Muni says. And so Brahma learnt it from him and he gave it to the Devas, and Brahma asked Indra to be the custodian of this particular the performing arts in all. But Indra said that he was not good enough for this particular duty. He believed that only a saint or a sage with a more elevated kind of thought process, only such a kind of a person can manage this thing. And so he suggested that the responsibility of managing performing arts and drama and all that be given to a saint or a sage. And that is how Bharata Muni was entrusted with this responsibility, and he became the custodian of performing arts. And from there, it became his duty of how this was dispensed with. And it is from his, as part of his duty that he brought out this book called Natya Shastra. Now, whether the rest of it, about these gods and Gandharvas and Devas, whether that was true or not, Natya Shastra is definitely true, and it is a record that we still have records of the Natya Shastra. And this particular book is a commendable piece of work, because it not only talks about the composition of perform, it talks about so many things. It talks about the stage setting, it talks about the production of drama, it talks about the different types of drama and dances, and about the stage setting, about the music that is to be used, about the body movements, about the expressions of the face and of the eyes and everything. And again, it talks about the costumes that people should wear. It talks about who can perform what kind of role. So it is a kind of an encyclopedic treatise on performing arts, and we should be proud to say that this exists in our country. And so, and again, it is said here that a little was taken from the 4 Vedas, from the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama, and Atharva, and put together to form the 5th Veda. And so drama and all these performing arts together are called the 5th Veda, Natya Veda or Gandharva Veda. Okay, so that much about the origin. And then it is believed that in the early times, it was all dramas, whether it is Greek or whether it is Roman and again Indian, these are all associated with religious ceremonies. So in the beginning, in the earliest form of dramas, they were not full-fledged long dramas, but short pieces, which were performed in association with certain religious festivals. And so people, in the beginning, it is said most of the dramas had hunting stories. Some people would act as if they are animals and the others would be hunters. And this is how drama began. And then slowly again, they started taking episodes from the Ramayana or the Mahabharata or the Gita and or the stories of great historical characters. And that began to be performed as on the stage. And so again, we know that drama existed for for so many years back, because there are evidences from other contemporary books. Now, for example, in Patanjali's Vyakarana Mahabhashya, or even in Vyatsayan's Kama Sutra, in Kautilya's Arthashastra, in all these books, there are continuous references to the thriving drama of those days. And according to Sanskrit literature, it's all literature can be classified into 2 groups. One was Drishya, everything that can be seen or that can be exhibited fell under the classification of Drishya, and everything that can be heard and recited was called Shravya. And definitely drama falls under the category of Drishya. And we have, let me just give you a few names of very famous dramas of those days. We have Bhasa's Urubhangam and Karnabharam. Then you also have Abhijnana Shaguntalam of Kalidasa. And we also have, he has written other works too, like Meghadudam, Kumara Sambhavam, so many other works. And there is also other writers who wrote plays like Matta Vilasa, Mrichagadigam. We've heard all these names. Okay. And quickly to tell you a few more details, the main features of Sanskrit drama, there were two types of dramas. Again, you can recall, since we are students of literature, English literature, you can recall the two types of dramas that were there in the beginning in English drama. One was the mystery plays and the miracle plays. The mystery plays dealt with biblical topics and life of Christ and related things. Whereas the miracle plays, they dealt with the life of saints and the miracles they performed and all those things. So that division. So here, this is not very similar, but then I was just trying to make a link between the two. And here we have two types in Sanskrit. One is called the Nataka, and the other is called Prakarana. And Nataka plays, they dealt with divine characters, divine beings, gods, or kings, that kind of character stories, historical stories of gods, demons, the royalty, and about the great heroic activities of kings and all. That kind of plays were called, all full of supernatural creatures doing a variety of supernatural things. So this was called the Nataka. And of course, we had ordinary people like soldiers, servants, hermits, merchants, all these people doing minor roles, and this was the Nataka play. Okay, so, and whereas the other category, Prakarana, in Prakarana, the stories were all about middle class characters, all invented stories. It is not historical stories or legendary stories, but then invented stories of everyday characters leading routine everyday lives and what happens in their life. Those kind of plays were called Prakarana plays. So that is the two categories of Sanskrit plays, Nataka and Prakarana. And the features of the plays, I should mention this. So one is the diction. When we talk about Sanskrit plays, we tend to think that they were fully in Sanskrit. But the fact was that even in a Sanskrit play, there would be very little Sanskrit, because Sanskrit was the language of the elite. Only the scholars and only the people of maybe the elite classes, the kings and queens and such people, only they could understand Sanskrit. So in a Sanskrit play, different people from different strata of society spoke in different languages. So they were all these elite class, and the gods were also expected to speak in Sanskrit. Whereas, and of course, if there is a Brahmin in the play, he too would speak Sanskrit. All the other characters like townspeople, villagers, soldiers, merchants, they would speak colloquial language. Wherever the play was presented, the people would speak the colloquial language of that particular area. And of course, women also spoke in these languages. They were not allowed to speak in Sanskrit. So all these colloquial languages together, collectively, they were called Prakrit. So in any given Sanskrit play, there would be Sanskrit and a lot of Prakrit too. So definitely these kinds of plays must have appealed to a wide variety of audiences belonging to different classes of society. Because even if you couldn't understand what was being said in Sanskrit, you could understand the rest of it, and you can somehow grasp the meaning of the whole play. So that was about the diction used there. And then about the dialogue, again, one more point to mention was that in Indian drama, in Sanskrit drama, there was a mix of prose and poetry. As it's, if you remember having watched all those earliest movies, I'm not talking about the silent movies, but then the movies which came later, which would have 110 songs in between. As the character is talking to, is delivering a dialogue, he'll suddenly break off into a song. So same way, that is how it used to happen in the Sanskrit drama too. It was a mixture of both prose and poetry. And in fact, Kalidasa is remembered more as a poet than as a dramatist. But he wrote, it is in his drama that he wrote his poetry. Okay, so it was a mix of both. Yet another point to be mentioned when I talk about Sanskrit drama is that there was very little online action. This was the same case with Greek drama, to early Greek drama, because they had their own limitations, stage, props, and such things. We did not have the technology that they did not have the technology that we now have. And so there was very little online action. And everything, and the plot of the stories, they're full of so many actions. For instance, in Ramayana, we have this incident where Ravana comes and takes Sita away and flies off. So all kind of thrilling action was there, but all this action was presented only through narration. Either the messenger or somebody who happened to witness this, or through a letter which was read on the stage. It was through these devices that the action was presented. Very little online. Online is the word that is always on all of us. I think we keep talking about online. So I am talking here about on stage. Okay, on stage, very little on stage action was there. So then you would wonder, then what was interesting about watching a play? So the interest, or the on stage tension, it was sustained through the dialogues of these people, through the plans that they keep making on the stage. And they talk about things that are going to happen and how suddenly somebody comes and spoils the plans and all these. This was what, and the awaiting of what is going to happen next. That was the excitement that the audience experienced while watching these plays. And the next feature is that the plays always began with an elaborate Purvaranga. Purvaranga is setting the stage for the play to begin. And students of literature again know that in many of the poems, in epic poems and even in some elegies, we begin with an invocation to the muses. Same way here too. It was not the muses. Here, the muse that we had was Shiva. And so the Purvaranga, it begins with a Nandi, a beginning. It was an opening prayer, and it was mostly, the prayer was to Shiva, an invocation to Shiva. And then what would happen is there would be a dramatic prologue. There would be somebody coming there on stage, and he is the one who's called Sutradhara. Now in the plays of Girish Karnad, you often come across the Sutradhara. So when you learn a play by him, maybe you will come across this idea. So the Sutradhara is definitely an actor, and so he is the production's director, or he is what you call the stage manager. So this person, he has a dialogue or a conversation with somebody else in the troupe. Okay, so an actor comes there and they're standing on the stage, and the idea is to tell us about the theme. The audience is waiting, and so the idea is to tell us about the plot, about the theme of the play and all that. And the prologue could be very short. Bhasa usually preferred short prologues, whereas Kalidasa would give us long prologues. And what was interesting about this particular prologue was that it was an interface. It was a kind of a bridge between the audience and the play. And for instance, in Bhasa's Karnabharam, there is, in the prologue, there is this stage manager coming and standing there, and he's going to tell us that this is the play, this is what we're going to do here. And suddenly, when he begins to speak to us, he says, just a second, I can hear something. And what is it that he hears? He hears Duryodhana's messenger speaking at the backstage or speaking off stage. And so he says, wait a minute, let me go and listen to that. So now what has happened? This man, the stage manager who stood there in front of the audience and said that we are going to do a play here, is a man of the contemporary world, of the real world, one among the audience. Only thing, he's acting the play or he's producing it. So he is a representative of the audience. But what happens when this very same person says suddenly, I can hear Duryodhana's messenger talking there. Let me go and see what is happening there. What happens then? There's a sudden change. From this world of the real, he steps very effortlessly into the world of the play, into the make-believe world of the play. And so this was the function of this Sutradhara, or the prologue. It kind of gave us, or the audience, they brought together the two worlds. The world of the audience and the world of the make-believe or the drama. So that is a very interesting technique. Again, that you can relate with metafiction. When you study metafiction in the postmodern times, what happens in metafiction? Constantly there is this somebody, the author, or somebody keeps reminding you, see, you're reading a play or you're reading a novel. Don't think that this is real. Okay, I'm here to tell you that this is not real. So that kind of a device, which kept bringing the audience back into the reality. So that was one of the devices used. And another thing to mention is that most of the Sanskrit dramas had happy endings. And in Sanskrit drama, tragedy and in poetics, Aristotle says that a tragedy should be a full-length tragedy, a comedy should be a full-length comedy. But here we were more realistic, I guess. We saw life in more of a completeness. So I guess we had the common sense to take life as it came. So we know that life is always a mingling of the good and the bad, and so in our drama too that was seen. So and most of the plays had a happy ending because in Indian drama the tensions occurred due to, like, we are rooted in this belief of, especially I'm talking about the Hindu way of thinking, we are rooted in this idea that God is there to control everything, and that there is this idea of fate and destiny. And so what complications happen in life when your fate gets twisted. Now, for instance, let me cite the example of Kalidasa's Shakuntala, okay, Abhignana Shakuntalam. And what happens there? There is this very young lady, a very beautiful lady. She meets this young man, Dushyantan, who happens to be the king. They fall in love, and he has to go back to his kingdom. So he says, okay, I'm going. You can come and meet me later. Like, your parents can take you along and bring you there. And just in case, you just show, he gives her the ring and tells her, you keep this ring with you. And if you show this, you will have no problem entering the kingdom. You just show this to anybody and you will be taken to the palace. So till then, everything happens according to as destined. Everything happens. They meet and they get married, Gandharva Vivaha, and they have a consummation of the marriage, and then he leaves and everything is happy and safe till then. And then what happens? There comes the twist. And one day this Durvasa, the sage Durvasa, who was a very short-tempered person, he happens to come there, and Shakuntala, because she's lost in her reveries and dreams about her husband, Dushyanta, she doesn't bother about this man, and he curses her with oblivion. And not her with oblivion, he says that whoever you've been thinking of, let him forget you. And there onwards, things go wrong. And then what happens is that she goes to the kingdom, but as according to this man's curse, Dushyanta doesn't remember her, and on the way she has lost the ring. The ring has fallen into the river, and when she goes there, she's rejected by her lover. She comes back in tears, and then she learns that she is already pregnant, and then she gives birth to a child. And after many years, this ring, it is recovered from the stomach of a fish, and it reaches the king. He sees the ring, and there, and lo, all memory comes back, and he remembers his Shakuntala. And so now everything has come back to the perfect design. So this was the kind of tension that happened in Sanskrit plays. So fate was the main villain there, and finally things would turn around and come to a very happy ending. So it was, and in Natyashastra too, Bharata Muni said that plays should have a happy ending. But it is said that Bhasa's Urbanga and Karnabhara, they were the two plays which had tragic endings, because he must have been interested in experimentation. Okay, so that is about the Sanskrit dramas, and now let me quickly hurry to Indian English drama. So in the meantime, what happened was, up to some 12th century or 15th century, Sanskrit drama